We need to construct what my friend calls a post-war narrative and national identity. What do we want to be? What's our sense of identity? So I think when you foster that shift, evolution in the mindset, saying, okay, this is who we are, you then start to construct a road towards what you want to be.
Salon people that we able to capture other people and merge in, you would not even know the difference. But what are the things that make us Sierra Leonean? We may not all look the same. We have different tribes. We have different ethnicities. Celebrating those things. How we go celebrate other people in their own culture, but we know they celebrate our own.
If you're prepared for the opportunities that you seek, when they finally land, you're in a better position to take advantage of them.
For any young person to thrive, they have to really have the enabling environment to develop the skills and have the sort of experiences that they do succeed in the future.
When teachers are respected and we see what our value is that we bring, and everything needs to reflect that. Respecting our profession, respecting what we do, respecting our field, and respecting the students, because they're the future. They're the future of Sierra Leone.
If we have to be honest with ourselves, we will say that education, the standard of education is not satisfactory. Graduates can't even write good English.
But the system itself, in as much as the system can take its own fair share of the blame, young people as well should own up to the responsibility. Antonia, nobody no get for can let you destiny and you success pass you. There's no way.
Even the youth out there, they one day we go, they ask for money, this, that. I can bring up, I don't meet Boku youth in a street way. I don't tell them, say, in order for me, I give you money. Low meet so tell go clean.
Just like every other journey or every other career or every other person, good day, bad day. It depends on what you take. But pageant is a platform for so many good things.
This body where we get is your temple. You might feel you're going in to solve one problem, but in the hands of the wrong individual who does not have the knowledge, it can cause more harm and permanent harm than good.
If you use for a place, who say light no day, water no day, you gonna place who say light day, water no day. It is come on.
Sierra Leoneans are traumatized. There's this deep-rooted issue, whether it's from the war, whether it was before and we hadn't noticed it because we were children, whatever it is, there's something going on with us.
It's just amazing to see how we are opening up as a society, talking about mental health, trauma, and addiction, and that serves to reduce stigma.
I don't think the way to go is to keep silent, to continue to shame your child, and when I say shame, like, if you touch man, you will get belay. When you get belay, they drab you. Like this type of thing don't work. We need to be more proactive.
Woman is small.
Yeah, woman is small.
If you have internalized that and you see anything that happens to a woman sexually, whether they're sexualized or whether they're sexually abused, you think, well, she can handle it. She's a woman.
So where you have ignorance, poverty, despair, and survival intersect, they just do because there isn't any direction set.
That person with a lot of wealth or political connection or whatever, however you try to tell them, don't do this within the catchment area because it's going to affect your people. He's not even thinking about whether the water will come down to region. He's thinking about how he has the money to buy the water by Bowser.
If you talk to politicians, you talk to MPs, you talk to directors, they'll say, well, what do? The people must survive. You cannot, go put bread in a posse mouth, you not get biscuit for put day.
Thank you. So far I've had very, very incredible guests, people who are dedicated to the work that they do, people who are dedicated to Sierra Leone. And that's the kind of spirit I hope, honestly speaking, fosters. For us to not just be committed to our individual survival, but also to Sierra Leone, because last Nayawi Day, this is home. And when I think about the fact that in the next maybe 30 years, I'm 30 now, so I'll be 60 then. I'd like to think that my children or my grandchildren or my friends' children are inheriting a better Sierra Leone, that they wouldn't have to fight for the things we fight for, that in the next 10 years, when we have kids, the first couple of phrases that they learn is not lights don't come, lights don't go. um, and this is really the inspiration behind Honestly Speaking. Just envisioning a better Sierra Leone generally. So that's what has guided most of the conversations we've had. And that's what I hope we will talk about here today, to kind of just, for the podcast to just have a full circle moment from start to, I wouldn't say finish, but maybe climax, middle. And for us, for all of us, because I'm sure the guests here, we may know each other, we may have met each other from maybe school or at one point in time or the other, but we don't have the time or the space to meet like this all the time. So I'm really excited for this audience, and I'm really excited for what this evening holds. The topic of today's conversation is truth, progress, and the power of conversation. And I chose that because those are the themes that I think have run through all the 29 episodes of Honestly Speaking. But before we go into the conversation and before I introduce my panelists, I'll just like for the incredible Lala Sidibe to come set the tone for the conversation. Lala is a budding kora player. She's the first female kora player in Sierra Leone, and she has such a sweet, melodious voice. And she has this beautiful song that really makes me emotional about Sierra Leone. It's called Salon Nawiyon. And so please give her a warm applause as she comes up.
Kushe uyabise walibena biari seke alokende jaramanani mama Rest in peace, Lord, in one them with all lost their life. Badi Belwa and Ebola, Badi Mots light and the flooding, Mama. Sierra Leone is a beautiful country with its beautiful people. We have green forestry and beautiful beaches. From Aberdeen to Banana Island, wherever you go, Sierra Leone, now we own. We are resilient people. Are we? Yes, we are. We have faced many battles, conquered none, but stand strong. Salona we all know. Salona we all know. I want you to join me. Let's say Salona we all know. Salona we all know.
Thank you once again, Lala, for that incredible performance. So, as I said, tonight's conversation is about truth, progress, and the power of conversation. Truth, because I don't know if I'm the only one, but I think there has been a resurgence of that appetite for truth. Maybe it's just social media making it look like a tornado in a teacup. But every time I check social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, I see people sharing news about Sierra Leone, and I see people actively contributing to what the story is, whether they're asking questions, whether they're bringing new perspectives. And it's such a beautiful thing to see these days, because I felt a couple of months ago, I felt we weren't talking enough. We weren't being honest, hence the name Honestly Speaking. And it just felt like people really just didn't care anymore. All man been just there at their own, space, everyone in their little corners. Hopefully you have things working for you and you're fine with that. But I think as I grew older this year, I began to think about the collective growth, national growth. I began to think about patriotism. I began to think about what I am leaving behind, not just as a personal legacy, but collectively. What are we leaving behind for our children, for our grandchildren? And doing this podcast has really challenged me. I have had guests whom I agreed with 100%, and some guests, maybe we agree to disagree. But the beautiful thing about it is it was all for one purpose: love for country, love for truth, love for honesty, and for progress. And I just want us to just take a look at some of the difficult or uncomfortable truths, in my opinion, that we talked about on the podcast.
No matter what government does, if we collectively do not provide the space or invest in private sector development, we're going to have problems with job creation.
Yeah.
We're going to have problems with revenue mobilization. Government will always be broke. Resources will always be scarce.
But the fact of the matter is, Sierra Leone will not get to its development goals. That is a fact. You will not get there by not investing in women and girls in this country. It will not happen.
And our continuous refusal to look back at history and learn from it is what is holding us back in this country. Because if you look at this country historically, we keep making the same mistakes.
We need to find new solutions. Transforming Sierra Leone is not going to come exclusively from Sierra Leone. It's going to take a bit of a Pan-African view. Because when everybody around you in Sierra Leone is telling you, hey, boy, I saw it in our I saw you for doing now nobody will by having those other associations, you can be able to say, yeah, but I say, nah, Gambia, then try something different.
If you are a citizen, you're afraid for talk, you're afraid for all you MP or council or accountable, you say, no, na me bra, now we party in a power, now we party the opposition, now we party, you're not able to hold them accountable, you're part of the problem.
One of the things that has affected citizens' ability to hold them accountable, because you don't go ask her, pay me beginning school fee, may wolf me fly. All you village people then die. And you go and ask them. And so when they do something wrong, you cannot hold them accountable.
3 things are among the long list of things that are destroying us. The 1 is stealing. People, they take a lot of what is not theirs. 2 is begging. And 3 is lying.
We need to hold ourselves accountable. Now let's say government comes out and says, what are you doing? We are trying, but what are you doing? Because let's be sincere, it's a two-way thing. Development is a two-way thing.
We all are stakeholders now, all of us. All this country now we own, now we need all left. Look at the people in government. If that does not tell you that now, who get this country right now? Now that not all mama and papa they again. And there was always this saying of we own or do not since now we own picking the no more now. In about 10-15 years, if we don't set this country on the right trajectory, I don't know if go left power.
Because you're not fine, you're not get for fine today, you're not get for fine tomorrow. When they talk about salon get diamond and these things, I can always say no. Our biggest assets, our biggest jewels, our biggest resources are our people. And if we don't continue to pour into our people, this will continue to not be fine.
And those are the difficult truths, right? If we don't do anything about what's happening now, it will continue to be this way. And this, if we're fine with it, is what we will be passing on to the generations after us. But I am pretty sure all of the folks in this room want to pass on a better Sierra Leone to the next generation. So I'm really glad that you're here. And I won't waste any more time. We would go straight into the conversation, and I will introduce my fantabulous panelists. And this, if we're fine with it, is what we will be passing on to the generations after us. But I am pretty sure all of the folks in this room want to pass on a better Sierra Leone to the next generation. So I'm really glad that you're here. And I won't waste any more time. We would go straight into the conversation, and I will introduce my fantabulous panelists. Before I introduce the two here, I'd just like to say Miss Phoebe Swill had to go. She had an emergency. And so she came in for a few minutes because she obviously just couldn't not show up, but she had something else to attend to, and she had to leave right away. But we still have two fantabulous panelists with us. We have with us Ms. Naasu Fofanah. Please put your hands together for her as she comes up. Gender advocate, businesswoman, and I think one of the most courageous women in Sierra Leone these days. Please help me welcome her once more. On the panel also, we have Mr. Ibrahim Yusuf Bangura, also known as Beloz. He's a lawyer, I would say creative disruptor. We're happy to have you here. Please put your hands together one more time for my panelists. So, to kick off, in Sierra Leone these days, when speaking up about something, when you're speaking up about something passionately or honestly, you are most oftentimes tagged as opposition.
Mm-hmm.
If you see something going wrong, you say, hey, this is what's happening, it's not right, or we need to fix this, even if it's as simple as we need to fix this. You get tagged as opposition, or basically possibly no like saloon. Why do you think we've reached this point where simple honesty about very basic things would get you tagged as political opposition?
I think there has to be a recognition, Antonia, that our biggest challenge as a country right now is we're at a place where there's a serious trust deficit. And there is that trust deficit between and amongst the people, Sierra Leoneans, but to a larger extent between the people and the government. And let me clarify that I am not saying this government. I am saying government as a continuum, the whole architecture. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, I think for far too long, Sierra Leoneans have been very aware of the fact that government does not work for them. You know, they say democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, which presupposes that government should work for you. Primary role of government is to improve your life as a citizen. But we've been at a place where if you've been alive long enough, you have seen Sierra Leone not particularly progress since we've had our independence. So you get to that place where you stop believing that government is going to make a difference in my life. That's one part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is the honesty and government actually wanting to put in the work to make a difference. There's an interesting thing. Every time I hear journalists interview politicians, the question is always, but when you were in opposition, you had all the answers. How come when you come into governance, you can't fix it?
Loss.
Yeah, because as the saying goes, elephants eat not to picking load. It's easy to talk the talk when you're on the outside, but when you're on the inside, I can tell you that as someone who has worked in government, understanding is the first part of solving the problem. You know, things our lecturers and teachers used to tell us, understanding the question is the first part of answering the question. So when people are on the outside, they don't understand how the system works. They talk the big game. They come in and realize, okay, I can't do this. I've talked a big game. And then it now becomes a scare tactic when you are calling for change or to do something better. It now becomes a defense mechanism to shut you down. Because imagine if everybody in this room is saying the same thing. We're all saying we want this road fixed. That's 30, 40 odd people. That's a lot of noise. So it's easier to just say, oh, no, you are against us. Do not listen to these people. So it's like the divide and rule principle. I think fundamentally that is where it is, because there's that trust disconnect, but there's also, no, we can't afford to have you asking the right questions because we don't have the right answers to give you.
Ms. Naasu, would you add to that?
Definitely. I actually think it's borders around insecurity from the people who believe you shouldn't be asking questions. If I'm asking a question or I want clarity, it's because something is not right. I'm opposing to what you're doing. So if you say I'm opposition, I wear the t-shirt. It's good. Okay, so I don't feel at all, in fact, I do it deliberately because it's also my platform. I take an opportunity to let them know that I disagree with what you're saying or what you're doing, and I need and deserve answers. So I always say, I really am working very hard to sell my PEMAU, and if I'm paying you from the taxes that I have to give NRA all the time, then I don't care if you call me opposition. You have to answer to me because I am your employer. So I think we need a cognitive shift around. Thank you. We need a cognitive shift around accepting that being called opposition is bad. I think we should embrace it. That's another way of really shutting them down or shutting whoever down that, tries to belittle you or belittle your voice. So anytime somebody says, Naasu is opposition, I say, but of course, I am. I am because you're not doing the right thing. So it's changing the conversation, owning your ground, owning your platform, owning your voice, and let whoever it is understand that you are not going to put up with whatever they think they are doing that is not right because you are paying them to be where they are.
But then people would frame it also as Unolek Salon. So how do you balance national pride with opposition?
But whose voice am I listening to? I mean, I am sorry, but with all due respect, if you're going to say I don't like Sierra Leone, I've returned to, from the diaspora 17 years ago. I've probably stayed in this country longer than you, whoever is making that noise. Okay, so if you're going to try and question me, I need to see what you have done without being paid with our taxes. It's just about insecurity, because if you're secure, you should actually allow people to tell you the piece of, you should be learning from what others have to say. My passport, I am Sierra Leonean. So if you FTI me, if law day, I need to ask the lawyers, I will sue you. Because now goodness, it's blatant disrespect to say just because somebody doesn't disagree with your opinion, that they are not Sierra Leonean. And I'm hearing this more and more, it's becoming very annoying. But I must say to you, nobody's ever told me that. I don't know why. I don't know the reason. But if you say so to me in public, I'm going to hold you down in public. But we have some very fine Sierra Leoneans. Everybody is a Sierra Leonean, even if I don't like you. So that judgmental attitude is something that we should not embrace. When they say we are resilient people, I think for a lot of people, we are resilient because we accept. And for some of us, first of all, from what this was this primary school, me not just accept something. So I think when we take things on board, people take advantage that Solomon go say, "Nah, for just left and head no day." But most people in the head do. Their head is rightly screwed in the right place. It's manipulation. It's how they could just not test thinking they test the water. But nobody's told me that I'm not Sierra Leonean. Nobody has told me that. But maybe let God not make somebody do maybe that day the conversation will be different. But I think
you mentioned something very important, and I think Beloz touched on that a little bit about us being resilient. This famous R word that we have carried as part of our identity, the resilient nation, and that being a result of us accepting things, of us just letting things go. But also something Beloz mentioned about forgetting the fact that the government, the institution of government and governance is supposed to work for the people. And so the question is, how do we begin to change that mindset or culture?
It's going to have to take us understanding that government is not doing anybody a favor. As Naasu said, these people work for us. If you're in government, I am your boss. There has to be that understanding. So it comes back to the conversation of, oh, we have done XXXX. You haven't celebrated that, but the negative thing is what you're pointing out. I'm sorry, I don't have to thank you for doing the job I employed you to do. You're not doing me a favor. So I don't need to say, oh, kudos, you fixed the road. I put you there so you could fix the road. What I have a problem with is what I expect you to do and you have not done. So I think as a people, we need to understand that. I mean, one of the clips, somebody was saying, and that's the reality. When we go, our people go and they curry favor and everything, how do you now have the standing to question somebody? And that's the way, our politics generally works. People want power, they want to get into office and everything. They come with favors and you ask for favors. I always tell people, I don't think a lot of people recognize, and that's a contract. As a politician, if I want power and I come to you and I give you money, I have contracted you to give me your vote. When you vote for me, you don't know. I don't owe you nothing because I gave you something for you to give back. So we have to understand that. We have to have more of that conversation. And just to touch on the patriotism and, like Salon, I'm sorry, where Abonaya gets Salon passports, you don't get a right to question my Sierra Leoneanness. That's the one thing nobody can take away from you. Except even when you go overseas, now with dual citizenship, you don't even have to give your Sierra Leonean citizenship up. I think it is important to understand that all of these things, these narratives, are just meant to shut people down, are just meant to make you feel like you don't have a voice and you shouldn't have a say. And I do agree with Naasu. Sometimes some of these things, it's okay to lean into it. Because guess what? When you go on and on and on and say certain things and I am not scared and I step into it, you have nothing else to throw at me. If you have called me opposition, I not back down. If you don't say Addis in Alex alone, I not back down. Of course, you have tried the insults, the trolling, I don't back down. It gets to a point where you realize, okay, Beloz not get for setting more too. At some point, you have to listen. So we have to learn not to be scared of these nomenclatures and just lean into them. Because keep in mind that that's a defense mechanism for the people who are not looking to do their jobs.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But also, what I try to do with Honestly Speaking is have a rounded conversation, because we have tried the pointing fingers and asking those in power or authority to do what they need to do. But I also think we have a lot to do. And I said the other day, in our own little spheres of influence, but you don't like that expression.
No.
So I will ask you then, quite broadly, what is our own role in this progress that we all want? What is our own role as citizens who want the best for Sierra Leone?
Bonding together, speaking up, not thinking. You see, the mistake we have made for far too long in this country is this whole idea or notion of, me no mix, I didn't have my own small corner. Like I said, you then have your own small corner. Say, when we are where we are now, this whole dynamic, it will get to you in your small corner. When things do not work, when systems do not work, when systems have been torn down, it's going to affect you one way or the other. So I think there has to be that recognition that we can't afford to keep quiet. That is why for me, this whole resilience thing, I find it so triggering. Because no, I'm not resilient. Who says? Who's our past resilient? I don't have a choice. I'm against one day. So please do not think that this is me being strong, or I am putting up with it because there's not a better option, save packing up and leaving, which is an option, but a lot of people choose not to explore that option. So I think we have to recognize that. I think I said this to you the last time. For me, I think there's a paradigm shift that's happening, because when you look around, and by God, we're blessed to have fantastic people in the media space. But when you look around and you see what you're doing, what Truth Media is doing, what Liberty TV is doing, you realize and recognize that platforms are opening up for people to have hard conversations. And I can tell you the number of times I have thought government officials will not turn up to these platforms for an interview, but they do turn up. That's to show that we hold the power. Let us use it. If you are on Facebook, wherever you are, whatever platform you have, speak up. Use your platform. That is your voice.
So there was a program in Sorobema, which is where my grandparents come from. My mother comes from in Pujon. And we had Madam Isa Yohansi, we had the current Minister of Sports, and we also had the current Minister of Economic Planning. And so I captured them, and these three women, I said, women will win. And so this person came on my page. Yes, women have been winning because President Bio has done this, because President Bio has done that. And I said, are you coming on my page to tell me what to say? Do you really want this conversation? I said, you are in no place. You do not have the platform to lecture me on gender issues. So do not come here and ask me to praise the president. He is the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And that is my president. You do not have. The next time you come on my page with the audacity that you've shown, you will not like my response. Don't do it anymore. Openly, I stopped him. And to date, he doesn't try it with me. He will try to come on my phone and say, I said, go and say it publicly. So the way I feel that we can, influence change, because change is not something that you're going to force people to do. You only change when whatever is happening is meaningful to you. Does it make sense? That's when you have that cognitive shift, and that's when you're able to change. So for me, I believe, I've said this so many times, that it is possible through hard work to become a millionaire in Sierra Leone. And 5 years ago, I kept saying to people, it no matter how much I drag, but I'm not going to go do anything that is illegal. I'm not going to label it to anyone. I mean, you should be scared if I can't label it to you, because you just know it's probably, I won't do it anyway. It's not part of who I am. And so I decided to start things that I believe will inspire other people. I started businesses. I started using keke, and everybody thought, but Naasu when I've been gender advisor in our president's office, now they write keke. This is don't broke down. And I was doing market analysis, because at this time, nobody wanted to use keke, to take their kids to school. People were afraid. The V8s were, just bullying the kekes. So I got an opportunity to ride keke with Fantasy Wiz, and I really liked it. So I started riding keke, and I became, like self-proclaimed PRO for keke. Today, everybody either owns or uses a keke. Okay, so then I started doing my susu oils, and people said again, but yeah, how long you get for take Naasu Fofanah? He make money per this oil. Okay, but today that oil is going global. So country clothes, basically local things that we normally look at and say we cannot. So how do we add value to not just what we make, but to our thinking? How do we let people understand that I can actually make my granite cake or my cold rice and package it well and really make a living out of that, so I can pay you and I can tell you to keep quiet and respect me? So we have to turn things around. And I really wanted to do the things that I'm doing and, growing in the last 5 years with whatever I'm doing. Trust me, the adopter, it meets. But I also have a network. And what you need to do is you need to have a network of people that you can trust, that you can go to, that you can actually be vulnerable with. And those people will hold spaces for you. I might not have money to buy the latest, Land Cruiser today, but I know it's going to happen. Like 2026, I'm just going to chill because I've worked hard. It's going to happen. but it's going to happen with pride. It's not going to happen because, somebody dashed me something that I don't feel like I deserve. So I really think that we should own our truths. We should be able to innovate. Innovation is not just, the tech thing, the millennial people. So we are retired millennials, we are retired Gen Zs, and we did it in our own time. So we're going to continue, but we have value. We can add value to the current, our current young people like yourselves. What we've done is valuable. So I just think that we should embrace what we have as Sierra Leone. We should try to add value to our processes, including our,
thinking,
thought processes,
mindset,
and just stand up for the truth. There is nothing else you can do.
I'd like to pass on the mic to you all for your questions or contributions or an answer to this very question. What does progress look like, not in theory, but in practice?
Firstly, I think we have to recognize that many of us in this room are speaking from a privileged position.
Absolutely.
And the elephant in the room on the issue of why do people feel insecure is because insecurity is real in Sierra Leone, both from the point of view of poverty, but also from the point of a people's experiences of what happens to you when you do speak out. And that is why the intelligentsia, the middle class, people of note in this country have basically been quietened, because the threat to progress, the threat to your survival is a real one. I think we should always have that at the back of the mind. And only a few of us have that privilege of being able to say, listen, there's nothing I need from government, so you can't do me nothing. Only very few of us. But within the context of looking at Sierra Leone, I want to say the second thing, which is a big part of our problem in Sierra Leone is that whilst we may have had an opportunity in 1961-62 when we became independent to ask the question, who are we and where do we want to go? We had another opportunity 2002 when everything had happened and we could have stopped. Unfortunately, the desire to carry out this liberal democracy type of work by just getting back to the scheme of things and getting on with it has never allowed us to stop and ask that question. And it is still a viable and necessary question for us to ask, because we are not one nation, we are not one people, and we don't think about Sierra Leone in the same way. So much for negatives, if they are seen that way. How do we tackle the issue of progress? I'm 76. I've been out of the country for 40 years. I've come back 2010. I've been back for almost 15, 16 years. I worked for a while, and then I didn't need to work any longer. And I said, well, where can I contribute? And what I do now is basically mentoring. I believe that for those of us who have the possibility of each one, take one, begin with one individual. So I agree with Beloz. Your space is all there, but you have to start somewhere. So maybe one way that we can start is those of us who have some opportunity to take one individual and re-educate, re-school, re-conscientize that individual. We may be able to begin the process of taking many other Sierra Leoneans together. But it's going to be a struggle. And as Bello rightly said, sorry to quote you twice, but the thing is, and a lot of people ask me, how is Sierra Leone now? And my answer, quite frankly, to both international and local Sierra Leoneans abroad and sometimes here, I say we just the cruise, because we don't want to answer the question of who we are, and therefore we don't have answers about where we want to go. But I think what you're doing is opening that space for young people who are a little more daring, who are less insecure, because if the candidate say then they close you down, I sure say go find another way for still honestly speak. And other people that now go back, so you say, I will not agree. All right? So I'm happy to see many young people doing this. And I believe that we're on the route to opening up and forcing, if you like, those in institutional power to recognize that their voices will be heard whether they want it or not.
people where they talk to, most times you're not part of the popular people. And it's okay by me. And all of the work that I have done in my entire time, I always determine myself, say, me plates, me supan and me respond, in order that nobody in plates blind. When you tell yourself that, what you're preparing yourself is that no matter what, I'm going to stand for the truth. I'm going to do what is right for the nation, even if I don't get anything. And you must be ready not to be rich, not to have a car, not to be popular, not to have friends. You can also be ready to be solo, because when you choose a path to say the truth, when you choose a path to go the right way, most times people will only come along when they see how far you have come or they see you succeeding. So it's very important that you stand when you take up. And we cannot just continue to hope. And if you look at our generation now, we are getting old. And what also are we instilling in the younger children is what is also important and what we should look at. Now, if you go to schools, you would see your child, you have instilled so much in that child, and sometimes that child starts questioning what you've instilled in that child because of what they see, the influences.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes, we must make sure that our influences are stronger than what your children will meet outside.
Yeah, I just read the World Bank reports. We know they make progress. Like I always want to ask, say, how do we measure how many people we're lifting out of poverty? It's very important. If people are poor, then livelihood depend on somebody who will give them t-shirt, somebody who will cook them eat. You're not going to ask a question, just like
Valnora
said. That's the fundamental problem. And who that get responsibility for addressing problem then they? Our politicians them. But the politicians them back, they are not aliens. They are people, our friends. So sometimes the things we say and the things we do, we should be genuine about it. Me and you don't see generational change of power. Me and Beloz don't see them. We've been part of group of people where believe say we should hold government, people in power accountable, peopleship, leadership. And when the table change, the people who enjoy power now just think no one should ask them question. And it will have to change. The people where they ask question now, where they hold them people are accountable, definitely will be some of the people who can have power back. And it will be the same. They will be tagging, then they definitely will be tagging people as they're tagging people now. But me think we shouldn't relent. I think the momentum we don't create so of raising awareness with people understanding that we all have a role and responsibility to hold people accountable. And the problem in this country is not just with our political class, it is us, the people as well. Sometimes some of us have opportunity to serve, now board them way, not get for do with politics, if they see bad they happen, they only talk. And we be part of the bad. People and they don't get money for support private sector investment them. Then they end up not give the right people away for give where they're able to make their decisions. And so we should not focus just on politicians or the political class, but ourselves. Because it is us. Now we they become politicians. They're not the one person say you're a politician. Oh, no. They're not the one person a politician. Now they choose. And sometimes when people choose, then and person know that the opposition say one be politician for can't do bad. No, they don't say they want to come and do bad. Either the system corrupts them or they get corrupted. It's a choice as well.
Yeah.
But I think the point I want to make is when we have this conversation, like Mr. Waite say, some of us are part of the privileged class. We can afford data and ask the questions. We can boldly say it. And saying the truth comes with some costs, with some challenges, but we've been thriving. But we never forget the people them. Now the points that they want to make. The people them when a lot of people who get for votes at the election where they come when they get for dance, sing and dance and turn over, they not get. And if poverty continue for day as it is, like Beloz said, like everyone said, we'll have this conversation after 10 years again.
The phrase or the sentence or the quotation that says that a people get the government they deserve began to ring true to me during my years in elections. Because there's poverty, but there's also priority. And you may be poor, but a lot depends on what you prioritize. And Sierra Leoneans, I think, over the years have lost the ability to prioritize. We want big things now, and then if we don't eat tomorrow, it's fine. So even when it comes to choosing our political leaders, people want to go with what appears at that moment. They're taken by the storm, and then at the end of the day, we all sit there and we grumble and we say, well, maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't have gone down that route. Maybe we should have done something else. But I think poverty is one thing, and I think our ability to prioritize, our ability to really closely inspect and question the things we're supposed to question is a very big issue. A few moments ago, I was discussing with somebody who was telling me that a child who is in daycare, where did we come from with all of these children in daycare marching in the streets in the name of Thanksgiving, giving them uniform and shoes that they can barely walk with? It's very painful. You look at the kids, they can barely
stand.
And who wants this? It's the parents. Then go where I shall be. Then are they dance and be in the band. What is this? So for me, sometimes you feel the pain of the average Sierra Leoneans, but sometimes you look them in the eye and say, really? I think you could have done something about your status, but you choose to be where you are. So in as much as we want to generalize and make statements about what I think, maybe somebody made that allusion that individually we also have to question our choices and set our priorities for ourselves. And then maybe we will not depend so much on a political power or government or governance, because if we don't do that, we're going to a place where it will be very difficult for us to come from. We really need to make people change their mindset. I know people who, I would say maybe even more than 60% of Sierra Leone, are laughing at Valentine Strasser. Why? Hey boy, go be president, they come on in Ogeos. So you go into politics, you come out, and you come out as a normal person and think people tell you that you're stupid. Yeah, you were not serious.
Yeah.
You're not serious. You know, see, look at. So we really need to do a lot of mindset resetting. I don't even know how to put it anymore.
Progress is us getting rid of a certain elephant in the room that I don't think we've mentioned yet. And that is the eye for an eye type of government. So Beloz initially mentioned that government, he was speaking about government as a continuum. That's how we appreciate government as this episode. But what we find is when you hold certain people accountable and they ask you, instead of giving you answers, they ask you or they tell you, oh, but the previous government's been do this. That person they been do that day. Why una not talk that day? Why not now? You never get honest answers. They always refer you to what someone did 5, 10 years ago. And until we get rid of that kind of mentality, we get rid of that kind of approach, we would never achieve progress, right? That's one part of it. The second part of it is exactly what Ms. Naasu and Beloz mentioned, conversed about. And that is government not being honest with us to say we cannot deliver on certain things. Many Sierra Leoneans, perhaps again speaking from a privileged point of view, would rather go to the private sector for their basic needs than the government, right? More talk about housing. Housing forces out of it. All man now, one thing, you own house, you own land, you own property, you own nothing when a locus, nothing when a government, nothing. You just want to avoid, limit your exposure to government as best as possible. Right down to security in your houses. You go hire private companies, say, deploy guards then for me. Because nobody trusts what government provides.
water, people then go gather build wells, dig wells and get boreholes, and for say they rely on Guma Valley. Electricity, you have more and more people moving now towards solar and alternative energy power sources. Even Chinese lights, some also get 4, 5, right? Because nobody can rely on what government provides. And unless and until, in our collective conversations and collective voices, we start holding governments accountable for what they ought to be providing to us as our employees, we would never achieve the level of progress or the where we want to get to.
I'd like for us to round up the conversation now. And the first half of the question is, what gives you hope that there is room for change, that things will change? And in that hope, what are the things we need to do? If we're talking about misplaced priorities, what should be our priority now as Sierra Leoneans moving forward, as Sierra Leoneans looking for a change? And I dare to use the word starting a revolution. What should we prioritize?
I think what gives me hope is this. The fact that we're still having the conversation. Cliche, because I'm sure this conversation was had 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. But like I said, the fact that we're still willing to have some of these conversations, the fact that, as Lamrana pointed out, yes, there few years ago we came together as part of the Renaissance movement. That went exactly how it went. Whatever happened, happened. Where we are. But at the end of the day, we look around and there's still myself, there's still Lamrana, people willing to have a conversation and say, we don't regret that we stood up because we believed in the message. I always tell people, when they throw Renaissance at me, I say, I make no apologies. Because at the end of the day, I am not responsible for people's actions or intentions or whatever hidden agenda they had coming into this. What I am responsible for and what I will stand up for is that every single time we then say, una come look and talk and fetch for le salongo before, you can count on me. Now, in terms of what we need to do, now that's the challenge. I do agree with Mr. Warite that as a country, as a people, we do not know who we are. So I would say what do we need to do is understand that there has to be a collective of people who are willing to put in the work and make the sacrifice. I think someone spoke to the fact that, this is it's not going to be a sudden shift. We have to realize that potentially, and I do agree with you that if now we the sacrifice, we'll not get for enjoy nothing.
Yeah.
We they can walk no more because somebody needs to do the work. Until we get to that place, we come together, we bond together and decide, something, we have to help our people to unlearn.
One thing that we must practice is consistency. We must learn to be consistent. People don't have to agree with you all the time. You see, politics is our biggest problem. You cannot even have a genuine relationship today because you are in a different political party. I cannot have a friend. We used to go and eat at other people's houses. We cannot even do that today. We've broken the fiber of communal, of collectivity. So we have to come back to what the Miata French of this world, the Zaina Banguras of this world, the Nimata Majekwakas of this world, they were together. When I came to this country, these women were together. And some of us learned from them. So it is our responsibility to, continue to live to the truth, to be congruent with our values, to know that, today Sierra Leone is not going to end because of you, but it's what you bring to Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
And if you can bring your truth and your honesty and your integrity, you have to be genuine. You have to love your country. And you have to be willing to give yourself. Because if we don't, me, I don't want to go return no sign. I want to be here. I want to see what's happening. I want to see that the hard work that I've put into this country, I want to realize it by lying, somewhere in Pujon, smoking my cigar, mixing my pollo and my Campari, and just doing what I really love. Okay? That's what I want to do.
Thank you very much. Please give a warm round of applause to my panel. Thank you very much for speaking honestly for truth, progress, and the power of conversation. That's it for today's episode of Honestly Speaking. Thank you for listening and being a part of these important conversations. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, please like and share. And if you're feeling inspired, do leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. And of course, carry on the conversation online. Share your thoughts, experiences, and ideas using #HonestlySpeakingSL. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay honest.